how do positive intelligence and RIM fit into your approach?
So, Positive Intelligence by Shirzad Chamine, it's based on his book Positive Intelligence. That is a model that when I read the book, I I was just so impressed at how he was able to take things that I already knew from doing work with clients about belief systems and reactive behavior patterns, and how he was able to integrate that into this elegant model that was very, very simple and very practical. And what it does is it gives people a very simple and easy to remember framework like, oh, that's my avoider saboteur, or that's my controller saboteur, or I'm going to channel sage innovate power. The framework is easy to remember. He has an app, so it's kind of gamified, and he has PQ reps, which are exercises that calm your nervous system, but they're all in, 30 seconds. So something you can do if you're a busy executive. He's up in Silicon Valley, so everyone he works with are in these crazy environments, go, go, go. And what he's given this model for is a way to calm yourself and get centered as you're going through the day. So I love the model. I went through everything. I did the coaching boot camp. I then went ahead and got certified. I then went on a few years later and went through their mastery program that they have that's available to some of the coaches. And I use it in my program. So almost everyone in my group program has gone through the positive intelligence, and they have a common language. And so it's very easy for people to access language that describes things like, oh, I realize I'm reacting, or I realize I'm getting super intense right now and people are shutting down around me, and that's because my saboteurs are playing. So it just makes it simple and easy to access. That was a long way to describe a short thing, but
No, that's good though. I mean, it's definitely gives you a process for that self-reflection. Like, what am I feeling right now? Why am I feeling it? What is the saboteur that's impacting me right now? Just to be able to identify it, I would imagine would be super helpful.
right. And the application also, the way it's designed right now, it gives you points for catching your judge in action, right? So you may not have time. You may be running through the halls and you notice that you're in a meeting. This is a really common example. You're facilitating a meeting in a business environment and you want people to be engaged. You want to draw out the introverts, and the introverts are just shrinking back, and you're getting more and more exasperated, and you're trying harder and harder to get those introverts to just give you their opinion, and they're just frozen. And you have no idea why that's happening, but the positive intelligence framework can tell you, oh, I'm in controller mode right now, and that's activating their avoider. And so then you can take breaths and go and get into your shift your well-being, and you can open up space and you can draw them out. So it's a very quick way to become aware in very practical business situations. So that's why I love the positive intelligence model and have incorporated it into the work that I do. And then did you also ask about RIM? Yeah. And so RIM, we talked about it a little bit earlier, so I will just say again, RIM is what we use when you've been stuck in the same annoying behavior pattern, and you've tried everything. So I would say my group clients, they call it their broken record issue, because they come back and they say, oh, I feel like I'm such a broken record. I'm complaining about the same person, the same issue over and over again. Well, usually that is just the reflection of your deeper pattern. And by the time it feels like a broken record in my group programs, you're usually probably have already done all the needs work. You've probably already looked at your belief systems. And now we have a new way to go even deeper than that. And I've seen it work because I've gone through it myself and I have changed internally. And there were some things that I was banging my head against the wall on, and I can feel the internal changes. It does take time, just like everything else. I know some people, when they talk about RIM, they say, ooh, one session. One session can cause a noticeable decrease in anxiety. But what I've noticed is I've done the RIM sessions now for a year, just and my life is completely different. My experience of every day is completely different now than it was at the beginning of this year. But I fully expect to have another big internal growth spurt as I continue on this next year to do the mastery. But it's amazing, and it does give me complete confidence that even if you have a broken record issue, there is hope for you and you can get through it if you want to try doing RIM, which is regenerating images and memory. And I should acknowledge Dr. Deborah Sandella as the originator of this model.
Thank you for explaining that a bit more. So one thing I kind of think about is if I'm having the same reoccurring, let's say, relational issue, and then I think about it and it's like, okay, what's the common denominator here? Well, it's me. What am I doing? What is it? But it's buried. It's in the subconscious, right? So how do you resolve that until you're aware of it? And so it's kind of unpacking what's in the subconscious, allowing you to heal from things that today you may not even be aware, you're carrying it. So very powerful tool. And I'm so glad that you are now offering that. And I fully intend to have additional RIM sessions with you. And I fully expect some major transformations. So thank you, Nahid.
Yeah, actually doing one tonight.
We are. And I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
I will say a couple more things about that because I think it's important since we're on the topic. Uh, w- when you have a broken record issue, typically what is trapped is a way you learned how to survive when you were a child. And when they first talked to me last year as I was learning the program about trauma, I was like, oh, I'm a coach. I'm not going anywhere near trauma. But trauma can be something that scared you as a little kid. So I was actually reflecting on something this morning. One of my one of my memories as a child that actually had a lasting traumatic imprint on me is a very simple one, but I think it will illustrate the point. I was probably 3 years old, and my mom was in the kitchen and she was getting dinner on the table, and she was grumpy because my toys were all over the living room. And she said something to me about, you need to get your toys cleaned up in 2 minutes, or you have 2 minutes to clean up all your toys. And as a 3 year old, I was terrified. I burst out crying because I didn't think I could clean up. That whole living room was, had my toys scattered all over it. It just felt overwhelming. And then, after I burst out crying, my mom comes up to me and she's like, "Okay, honey, you're okay. 2 minutes is actually a long time. You can do this." And she showed me how. And that was the memory. Very simple, not anything that anyone would think was majorly traumatic. But one of the things that I've been working through in RIM is that I will have a freeze response, a traumatic response, when someone is demanding something from me or asking something from me, and I really don't think I can do it. And a lot of it is when someone's asking me for an answer right now, and I don't have the information, or it's a much more complicated question, or it's completely impossible for me to do the thing they're asking me to do. And my brain just starts freezing. So I have the terror response. So, really, in that example, what RIM would help me do is go back into those early memories that are not stored verbally so much. They're stored as emotions and imagery. So we would go back to some imagery and we would look at that feeling of being terrified that I can't do something, and we would make it okay to not do something. We would make it safe to not do something. And then that safety slowly embeds itself throughout your whole nervous system. So the next time somebody demands something from me and I know I can't do it, I don't get triggered that way. I don't have the freeze response. I don't have the terror response. I'm like, not going to get that right now. I'll do my best. And that's all I can expect of myself. So there's just things that are not triggering anymore. So that's an example.
I think that's very good. So you're essentially imagining that prior experience and that caused trauma or caused some kind of a trigger that you've carried through the rest of your life, and you're disarming it. It's no longer a trigger anymore.
And likely it was a pattern. So likely there was a pattern. So in my prior life, there was a pattern of when my mom, the language she used when she would get frustrated is, you'd better X, right? And there was sort of a threat in the tone, right? Kind of like parents do with bad girl or whatever, right? And so you'd better X created fear in me because I wanted to be a good girl and I wanted to do that thing that you'd better do. So I would get really scared about maybe not being able to do it. Now, someone else, some other child might have a completely different response to that. But because I became terrified, and they'll say that about trauma, trauma is about how you react to something, not so much about the event itself. And this doesn't dismiss those very serious cases of trauma. So when I'm even using the word trauma, sometimes I feel guilty about using that word because I feel like the word trauma really needs to be reserved for PTSD and people that have been to war and those kinds of things. So I think I feel more comfortable using the word overwhelm for things like what I'm explaining, just the ongoing overwhelm of feeling like I better, but what if I can't? That kind of thing. But that pattern then causes all sorts of behaviors that are almost compulsive to try to protect myself from ever being in a situation where I can't do something that someone might expect from me. And it causes a lot of anxiety. So to be able to get rid of that core pattern and become completely comfortable in a situation where I may or may not be able to succeed at something, but let's just try and see what happens. And whatever happens is okay. That's a much healthier way to be in the world. And it can erase all sorts of things that I might have done in the past to try to manage other people's expectations to protect me from this terrifying thing. So that's just a personal example I can share to give you a feel for the kinds of things that RIM can change. And I didn't really have the tools to go that deep up until more recently. Like maybe more recently, I could show you that that's a pattern and you could agree with me that that's a pattern, but you would still freeze anyway. And you would just know, oh, that's my freeze response. And the awareness will help a little bit. And that's what positive intelligence does. It gives you the awareness. Oh, that's my saboteur. And in positive intelligence, they say your saboteurs are never going to go away, but they'll become less intense as you become more aware of them. You can work with them. So positive intelligence will take you as far as, oh, that's my freeze response. Okay, let me calm myself down and re-enter. And that might be quite sufficient for most people. It's the ones that say I never even want to freeze again. Then they're the ones that might want to try RIM.
Thank you. Bye now.
Bye bye.